Or to the computer. Yay! Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be with you to dive into the Siksastakam, written by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. I just want to say one prayer before I begin. Om Agyana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshudun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we have a wonderful group of devotees joining us in this seminar. Some people are new to Bhakti, some have been practicing for a while, and some have been practicing for a long while. So I'm asking your patience if I cover some points that you're already familiar with, or if you can't quite understand something, that hopefully we'll get it resolved, or after the end of each session, we're going to have questions and answers and discussion. So hopefully that will address anything that comes up in the seminar. The format of the seminar is today is going to be a broad overview of points about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our Sampradaya, the holy name, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to come to deliver to the world. And then the next class will be on the very first verse of the Siksastakam. We're going to discover that the first verse of the Siksastakam, embedded within it, is the seed for all the other verses. And then the third class will be on verses 2 to, I believe, 4, maybe 5. And then the last class will be covering verses 6, 7, and 8. So, and then after each session, as I said, we'll have time for questions and answers. I know that a number of people had written me that they were interested in this seminar with the hope to transform their own practice of chanting. And I hope that this seminar will inspire and nourish hearts and encourage our chanting, and maybe kickstart it into better season, so to speak. And the way I feel that our, there's a lot of tips and tricks, so-called, to chanting. The most important being is just focus the mind on the holy name, which is so difficult. If anyone's chanted, we know, man, the mind is just very, very difficult to control. So I'm going to be focusing on knowledge to help us focus our meditation, our chanting, to really understand what Mahaprabhu has given us in the Siksastakam, and that itself will help us cultivate our inner world and really, do what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked of us. So I'm going to be using different names for Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in this seminar, and that's why I gave you a handout that has the different names of Mahaprabhu in case you're not familiar with them. I know some people are really new to Bhakti. So you can look at that. That's there for you. Now, Siksastakam, Shiksha means teaching. That's the word Shiksha means teaching. And the word Ashtaka means 8. So in Siksastakam literally means 8 stanzas of teaching. And these are comprehensive, even though they're short and they're so concise and condensed. They are comprehensive teachings about chanting the holy names of Krishna. We're going to explore why this should matter to us, why Sri Chaitanya is important, why his instructions are so valuable, and what the glories of the holy names are. So our aim through our examination is to help us solve the problem of material existence by remembering that we are Krishna's beloved, and we want to come to the point of finally and fully reciprocating his existing affection for us. We've heard that we are a spark of spirit that needs to reconnect with the great fire from where we came. And we have a sense that this is true inherently for those that have come to Bhakti. It's almost like a confirmation of what we felt, what we couldn't quite put words to sometimes. But here we have an experience of it, and it's very confirming. So our attempt in understanding Siksastakam and taking up a chanting of the holy names is to make our relationship with Krishna realized, and this is certainly worth our effort. We have an eternal bond of love with Krishna that we're beginning to recognize. And I hope through the seminar we can think of ways we can respond to his beautiful petition at the end of the Gita. I had this special translation and I wanted to read it to you because it's really quite beautiful. Maybe you can I'm going to say it slowly so you can the words can sink in because it's just very lovely. So Krishna says, "You are well loved by me, so I shall speak for your good. Be mindful of me and devoted to me. Offer to me, bow to me. You will come to me alone. I promise you this truly, for I love you." So this is Krishna's petition to us by offering us his holy names. And we ought to sincerely sit with Krishna's words to us and absorb the truth of them. We are loved by Krishna. Krishna loves us right now, just as we are, even a bit messy. We are Krishna's beloved. We are a part of him, and he desires that we go to him so that we can fully feel his love for us and we can reciprocate it in kind. So to guide us in this endeavor, Krishna himself has come as Sri Caitanya in the garb of his own devotee to demonstrate the ways we can fully reciprocate his pure love with a pure love of our own. You know, when we find even a glimmer of genuine love in this world, even we perceive just the slightest hope for love, we're deeply moved by it. We think, yes, love is really possible. Pure love is possible. And it is possible, but it's only possible with a pure heart. And for this reason, Krishna personally comes to us in his holy names to give us his company and by his presence purify our hearts. So this is our greatest hope, our greatest joy. So we turn to Mahaprabhu's Siksastakam with great anticipation. And before going on, I just want to note that I want to say thank you to all the devotees who have taught me about chanting and the meaning of the Siksastakam. I bow to them and owe them a debt of gratitude. You know, we are made by the kindness of others, and we can always acknowledge that. In this seminar, I'm going to be drawing from Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's biography called the Chaitanya Charitamrita, written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And we also have commentaries on the Siksastakam by some luminaries in our line, namely Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhardev Goswami. So I'm drawing heavily from those commentaries to bring out some illumination about the Siksastakam. So why is the Siksastakam so important to us? There are several reasons, but for one, it's the only written contribution we have of Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. So in 8 concise verses, we have the absolute essence of what Krishna wants to communicate to us about his presence in the holy names and how to approach him through mantra meditation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke these 8 stanzas to us, basically saying, follow me, this is the way, follow. And so we turn to Gora, who is in our line what's called a Samstapaka Acharya. This is, I'll explain the term in a minute, but basically Mahaprabhu's name appears in the name of our parampara, our disciplic succession, our disciplic line. The name of our line is the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And in that phrase, the word Gaudiya originates from the word Gauda, which is an ancient name for West Bengal, where Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. So Gaudiya, or Gaudiya Vaishnava, refers to the followers of Chaitanya. There are 5 sampradayas in the Vedanta universe, but Krishna only appears in one, and that's the Gaudiya lineage. So why does he appear here? He wants to add something to the line that no one else can give. He's the only one that can give this. So that kind of brings us to a definition of the phrase samstapaka acharya. A samstapaka acharya refers to a teacher or a very prominent teacher, an acharya, who uniquely establishes or shapes an entire spiritual lineage. Samstapaka means settling or establishing or firmly fixing or shaping something. And although you have many acharyas in a line, not all are samstapaka acharyas. Typically, there's just one foundational acharya in a line. So our line, we come in the line of Madhvacharya, who is such an acharya that the lineage received a name after him. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came after Madhva, is our samstapaka acharya because he brought knowledge and a practice to this disciplic line that was not available anywhere else previously. So now, other acharyas can make significant contributions to the line. They can restore or refine the teachings, but not all of them are samstapaka acharya. So for instance, in our line, we have Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And he's regarded as a modern reformer who reinvigorated the lineage in the early 20th century. And of course, we have Prabhupada himself as the founder acharya of ISKCON, and he made the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accessible globally. So what spiritual lineages do is they ensure the accurate transmission of teachings. They provide authentic guidance and help individuals connect with the original intent of the sacred texts. And so by this passing down of knowledge from guru to disciple and on down, we receive a coherent theological system and solid philosophical foundation. You know, I think we've probably been able to identify that it's a common tendency nowadays to kind of like pick and choose, like elements from here and elements from there, and I'll piece together my own personalized worldview and approach. But the problem is this method cannot help us because we don't have the omniscience required to harmonize the very complex physical and spiritual laws of the world and the universe into a cohesive system that factually can liberate us from the fetters of matter. But Krishna can, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, the source of all incarnations, expansions, and avatars. And he's come to himself to reveal what he did not completely reveal when he came as Krishna and spoke his instructions in the Gita and his conversation with Uddhava in the Bhagavatam. So in the Gita, Krishna tells us to surrender to him, but he didn't give elaborate instructions about how to do that. And especially how to do that in this age of dissension when our lives are so short and we have such small mental capacity is an issue. So he came as Mahaprabhu in an extraordinary and rare descent to explicitly reveal what was hidden. He is uncovering a very rare gem. And he only comes, I'm sure you've heard this before, if not, this will be an interesting piece of information. He only comes once in a day of Brahma. That means one time every 4.3 billion years. That's when he comes. And we just happen to be here on Earth 500 years after he was here. And he only comes every 4.3 billion. Really, that's such a short time for us to be coming here right after him. And he's not just an historical personality that we read about in Shastra, that we we have many biographies about him. We have firsthand accounts of his life. He's not a mythological figure. His teachings are perfectly intact. And even non-Gaudiyas acknowledge the unique contribution of Gora, and how there's comments in different writings how among all the saints in recorded history, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stands out as one of the most great saints immersed in a tidal wave of love of God. So all this is to say that we can carefully consider the good fortune of coming into contact with Mahaprabhu and the gift he's giving. The Leela of Gauranga is known as an Acharya Leela. Achar means behavior, and Acharya means one who demonstrates by behavior. So it is through his life example, through he personally showed us how to engage in bhakti and attain success. And it's interesting to note that he spoke the Siksastakam verses at the end of his time on earth. So his whole life came before he spoke the Siksastakam, and that example substantiates the truth of these verses. So another name for Mahaprabhu's Leela is called Audarya. Audarya means magnanimity, generosity, or compassion. And his Leela is called Audarya because he was so magnanimous in his distribution. He didn't care if someone was qualified or not. He just freely gave love of God. He freely gave the mantra. He showed the practice of kirtan. And not only did he give us that, but he gave us access to the rarest form of love of God. There are many types of love of God. And Mahaprabhu gave us the highest reach of transcendental possibility through the practice of Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names. Either, for us to get a special gift, we either have to pay the proper price or be especially qualified. But this isn't so with Mahaprabhu. He simply gave freely, made no consideration of our qualifications. We don't see this unparalleled mercy in any other avatar or expansion. This is very unique to Mahaprabhu. And because he gave the highest spiritual attainment to the lowest among us, he's known as the Mahabharanyaya avatar, or the most magnanimous manifestation of God. And just to help us kind of frame who we are in relationship to this gift that Mahaprabhu gave us, in the 12th canto, the second chapter of the Bhagavatam, it gives us kind of this account of what's going on in the current cosmic age called Kali that we find ourselves in. It says that it's kind of a depressing account, but I think we should be aware of it because we fit the description. At this time, there's going to be a loss of virtues such as truthfulness, tolerance, mercy. Lifespan will be decreased, strength will be diminished. There's going to be a social decline, family ties will begin, and marriages won't be based on real love, but just a superficial attraction, and unqualified leaders will exploit the citizens. Materialism will be dominant. Wealth will determine social status, and it's described that hypocrisy will be accepted as a virtue. So, and then we have people would be suffering from all kinds of diseases, anxiety, depression. The intelligence will be diminished. And all of these problems that ensue in Kali make it very nearly impossible to engage in a spiritual practice. I mean, when we talk about genuine spiritual practices, they're very rigorous and they require qualification. So by the time you finish this chapter of the Bhagavatam, it's like, oh, I feel my little hopeless. What hope is for us? But what atmosphere we're in. But then the Bhagavatam does give us immense hope. as it's just about to close in the third chapter of the 12th canto, it says that although Kali is an ocean of faults, there's one very great quality, and that is simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can achieve liberation and the ultimate goal of life. So it's said that even it's actually a benediction to be born in Kali at the time when the holy name is available, because it's a very simple, easy process for us, and that's not available in all the cosmic cycles. So I wanted to look briefly at Mahaprabhu's contribution to the Sampradaya. When I say that, it's not just knowledge to align, but it's knowledge given to us. It's made to individuals. It's given to each one of us. These are personal gifts to us from Krishna, and we'll come to treasure them more and more as we understand the implications of the knowledge and all that it facilitates. And it's going to be impossible to speak about all Mahaprabhu's contributions, as the philosophical implications are so vast. But let's look at the ones that help us understand the Siksastakam. And these are unique. Remember, these are unique. These are not available in other sampradayas. And even in the sampradaya that we are in, they were revealed by Mahaprabhu when he came 500 years ago. They were not in the line before that. So first, Mahaprabhu introduced the worship of Srimati Radharani along with Krishna. There was an understanding of Krishna being Bhagavan, but the feminine side of Krishna, his internal energy, Sri Radha, was not revealed. Mahaprabhu gave us the world its first glimpse of Srimati Radharani and her extraordinary position. He taught that Radha's unparalleled devotion and selfless love for Krishna is unsurpassed. No one's love can match hers. And she's not only Krishna's eternal consort, but his greatest devotee. And for us, that means she is someone in whose footsteps we can follow, because we also want to be Krishna's devotee, and she's considered his best devotee. She's the embodiment of what's called in Prema Mahabhava, which is the highest form of divine love, and that is only manifest in the person of Srimati Radharani. And Mahaprabhu told us that what we should do is aspire to serve Radha's servants in this world, and that in transcendence, the highest attainment is called Radha Dasyam, or to serve Radha and her Manjari servants in the spiritual world. And he revealed that the Madhurya Rasa, the conjugal love for Krishna, is the highest expression of love of God. And finally, he taught something that's really important for us. He's taught that feelings of separation from Krishna are even more ecstatic. They produce more ecstasy than direct union with Krishna. And by cultivating feelings of separation, we use a very powerful tool to develop love of Krishna. We are separated from Krishna now. We should regularly feel that and want to be connected. And in his own example, when Chaitanya felt great separation from Krishna, he showed us how to propel ourselves forward in our own meeting with Krishna. So we can take this insight as a cue in our own chanting. We can try to understand, we can try to actually feel just how much we're separated from Krishna and how great our need is to be with him. So another aspect that he brought into our lineage is he introduced what's called the Rag Marg Bhakti. or the path of spontaneous loving devotional service, which transcends rules and regulations, which is called Vaidhi Bhakti. He showed us beyond Vaidhi Bhakti, there is Rag Bhakti. When we first begin Bhakti, it's important to follow the rules and regulations, but at a certain point in our spiritual development, our attachment and affection becomes spontaneous. And to reach that point of spontaneous love where nothing can interfere with our love for Krishna, nothing of this world is any more attractive, there is a scientific approach to attaining that stage. And Mahaprabhu infused our lineage with all these sweet philosophical conclusions and confidential truths. And as I said, they're not available anywhere else. Therefore, his gift is unexcelled and extraordinary. So for these reasons, among others, we acknowledge a great debt to Mahaprabhu. We bow to him and we pay special heed to his instructions and what he gave. So we worship him by following his guidance to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. He said that those who take this Maha Mantra sincerely, seriously, pleases him very much. And it's described that when we approach Mahaprabhu, when we please him, then automatically Radha and Krishna are pleased. Automatically we are given service to the divine couple by pleasing Mahaprabhu. Now, these were the reasons I just gave you about Mahaprabhu's descent in the world is like what's called his external reasons, but he also had his own personal reasons to come. And he wanted to come because he was, he's Krishna himself, and he came in the mood of Radha. As Mahaprabhu feels just like Radha in search for Krishna, which is our position. We're a devotee in search of Krishna. In his Leela in Goloka, Krishna witnesses the extent of Radha's love, and her love completely captivates him. He witnesses how her intense love affects her body, and he can't imagine what her states of consciousness are and what the transcendental emotions that she feels, but he wants to know the nature of that love and what she experiences. But as the person who's the receiver of her love, he can't experience that, but he's a relisher of love, so he wants to experience what she's experiencing. Therefore, he comes as Gora to accomplish three things. He wants to relish the sweetness of Radha's love for him. He wants to understand the nature of Radha's happiness in loving Krishna and show that to us. And he wants to experience the depth of Radha's love, which is oceanic, can't be measured. And as I mentioned, only she experiences the state known as Mahabhava, or supreme ecstasy. It's a very intense ecstasy. It's the pinnacle of spiritual emotion and is unique to Srimati Radharani. And another reason he comes is to give the Yuga Dharma, or the appropriate spiritual practice for the age. In every age, there's an avatar that comes and teaches the way, the method for the people of that age to become liberated. And not every age is the same, because the people in every age are a little different. We've already heard just now how particularly unqualified we are in Kali Yuga. Actually, we have little qualification for any spiritual practice, and therefore we need a particularly powerful and easy process. So Krishna in the Gita, he was very explicit. He said, you're to please me by performing yagyas, or making sacrifices, to offer give in charity. By sacrificing, we acknowledge and we bow to the interconnectedness and sacredness of life. So when we act, when we take part in the cosmic affairs by offering things in sacrifice, it's a way that we sustain the universe and maintain balance in nature and society. So this is not something theoretical that Krishna says in the Gita that we're just supposed to perform sacrifice. We are to perform sacrifice. And Mahaprabhu says, the best sacrifice now is Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of Krishna's holy name. And you have to wonder how much sacrifice is required to sing and chant and dance. Yet it's the fullest way we can participate in the positive, participate in a positive way in the world and please Krishna at the same time. Now, kirtan, the word, it means to make famous or to glorify a significant person. So kirtan isn't just for anyone, and it's described in the Bhagavatam that it's not even meant for a great person or even a deva, a celestial being. It's a song in praise of the complete whole, the sweet absolute, Sri Krishna. Therefore, technically speaking, kirtan is really only meant for Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Of course, that's the Gaudiya view, but it is supported by many shastras, Vedanta shastras. So the source of everything and the supreme controller should be praised. And we become virtuous and purified if we engage in Nam Sankirtan. Now, one of the things that's described in the Siksastakam is that Nam Sankirtan is what they refer to as complete Sankirtan. And there's several ways that the chanting of the holy name is a complete practice or a complete process. One, it engages the mind and the heart in meditation. And it can only be complete when we give our full attention. That's another aspect of its completeness. Now, as we've all probably experienced, it's pretty hard to get the mind to stay focused on the holy name. And one teacher said that there's something that we can do about that when we pay attention to our heart. Our heart, we follow our heart. We don't follow our reason and mind. We follow where we put our heart. Therefore, if we give our heart to chanting the holy name, then the mind will automatically follow. Now, of course, that requires purification of the heart, and that requires us to chant. So it's a joint process, right? We give our heart, it becomes purified. We give more of our heart, we naturally meditate properly on the holy names. And by doing this, by regularly bathing ourselves in this transcendental sound vibration, we find that eventually our hearts begin to swell with some real genuine spiritual motion. And then we are like captured by the holy names, and more our attention will easily flow to the holy names, which is a stage of spiritual development that we're going to hear about in the Siksastakam. So it's described that when you glorify Krishna, when you hear about his power, when you pay attention to the process of hearing and chanting of Bhakti, that Krishna personally enters our hearts and cleanses away every trace of misfortune, just as like the sun removes the darkness or wind drives away many clouds. So another aspect of Sankirtan being complete is that it not only purifies the people chanting, but also anyone who's nearby and hears it. Therefore, it's considered a very special, especially merciful meditation practice because it encompasses everyone. I mean, if you're doing silent meditation, you're just purifying yourself. But if you're chanting out loud or in a group and people are around, then the mercy is being spread very far. So, and then we hear in Mahaprabhu's biography that he was so mercifully disposed that he took Sankirtan to the streets, and he chanted blissfully in the streets with thousands following him. Another reason Sankirtan is considered full or complete is because its purity and ability to glorify Krishna It's not that we have to learn thousands of Sanskrit verses or become knowledgeable of the Sanskrit language or even knowledgeable of all the thousands of texts. It's just simply we immerse ourselves in participating in a kirtan or chanting the holy names with japa, with what? The intention to serve and please Krishna. Then our kirtan is complete. And so if kirtan is partial or incomplete, it's not really accepted as Sankirtan because it's not able to cause the wonderful transformation of the heart. We probably know that or experience that distracted chanting or chanting with self-serving motives doesn't please Krishna. He's not attracted to it. He wants to see real love. That is what calls him. Therefore, we'll be careful to do the inner work along with chanting of removing selfish desires, removing our self-centeredness, and of course, as we know, fully paying attention when we chant. It's interesting to think of Sankirtan as a spiritual practice that's an activity that can't be performed without others, actually, right? You think of spiritual activity as our own liberation, but Sankirtan it's a congregational activity. It requires not only a group to come together in the chanting, but a group to come together and share in their practices and share in their life and share in their weaknesses or their triumphs or their difficulties. We can't progress to pure love of God by ourselves. We need each other for our spiritual upliftment, which doesn't that make it important, therefore, for us to develop cooperative, loving relationships with each other? I mean, it's not that we just chant. We have to live a life that supports our chanting. And living a life that supports our chanting is many things, but one of them is developing, loving relationships with devotees, of course, with all living entities, the world, all living entities, but especially taking shelter in the association of devotees. The sacred texts are very clear. They repeatedly say we must get the association of kind, like-minded, advanced devotees, not only to perform kirtan, but to successfully perform all activities in bhakti. One of the things I wanted to point out about Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan and his teaching in the Siksastakam is that his kirtan is a special kirtan. There's many kirtans, there's many kinds of kirtans, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's kirtan is called Prema Sankirtan. It's the kirtan of the Mahamantra, of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that Gora speaks about in the Siksastakam. This is the mantra that is able to give prema. No other mantra gives prema. We should really understand that. We should understand what our goal is, and we should understand the method to the goal. It's the unique kirtan of Mahaprabhu that bestows divine love for Krishna. Other mantras can give liberation if they're genuine and they're taken properly, but they can't give prema, the treasure of divine love. And that prema, that divine love, what is it? It is love that descends from Goloka Vrindavan as the congregational chanting of the Mahamantra. In other words, Krishna's name comes directly from his abode, where Sri Radha and all his associates chant these divine names in ecstasy. So we're following in good footsteps by taking up a practice of the Prema Sankirtan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that he has invested his own inner wealth into the holy names in this Kali Yuga. You might find this interesting. All Kali Yugas have the Mahamantra meditation practice as the method for spiritual attainment. But it's only the Kali Yuga that Gora comes in, that the Mahamantra gives prema. And that's because Gora invests his own self in, he is in the holy names, and he invests his inner wealth in the holy names. So another reason for us to take note of just how extraordinarily powerful this spiritual practice is. By chanting Prema Kirtan, we enter the realm of love. And through the chanting, we can associate with the greatest lover, Srimati Radharani. Her selfless love commands Krishna to obey her wishes. And it is interesting, one reason why the Gaudiya Vaishnavas identify Chaitanya as Krishna himself is based on the understanding that only Krishna can give Krishna prema. No other avatar or incarnation can give love of Krishna. Only Krishna can give love for Krishna. And so Krishna, because he is the source of all incarnations, he can bestow it. And Mahaprabhu, being Krishna himself, has done that. I'm going to put in the chat for you just a mantra, and it's a short, simple mantra, and its translation that many of you probably know. But if you don't know, then you can grab it. And it's a mantra that you can say. I would suggest learning it. It's about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's a mantra that you can use for offering food or just saying regularly. It's a beautiful description of Mahaprabhu. Now, also, I gave you in a handout something called Chaitanya's Names and Predictions about him. And there I have shared some scriptural quotes about Mahaprabhu's identity from the various sacred texts. And I thought that would be interesting for you to have and to further understand more about when we talk about Mahaprabhu and the importance of his teachings in the Siksastakam. That will be nice for you to have. Now, one thing special about Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy name, is that it accomplishes all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's goals, his internal desires and his personal desire to welcome us home. So in pursuit of experiencing Radha's love, he shows us how to attain such love, and that is accomplished. We have to really understand this. That's accomplished through chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's the most effective way of attaining love for Radha and Krishna, and it's the best service to them. We immediately and directly serve them by taking their holy names. And so basically chanting Krishna's name is tantamount to developing our relationship with Krishna. It's not a solitary act. It's relational by nature. It's a dialogue with Krishna, a sacred conversation that invites his presence into our life. And gradually will qualify us to go to his abode, to serve him personally. When we please Krishna according to how he wants to be pleased. He's very clear about how he wants to be pleased. He says that if you chant my name, I'm happy, and you're going to associate with me through transcendental sound. Bhagavatam says that one who is intelligent worships Mahaprabhu by this method. It's easy, powerful, and it carries all the practitioner through all of their shortcomings and messiness. So as we get closer to approaching the Siksastakam verses, it's an exclusive focus on Krishna's names. It's going to speak about the glories and the power of the holy names, the emotions a practitioner comes to experience, and the ultimate goal of chanting prema. These 8 stanzas are ultimate teachings about what our mood and intention should be when approaching the chanting. I think many of us know that many traditions consider the name of God to be sacred, but it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who has elevated the name to be the most important aspect of the spiritual life. And he's offered us a scientific practice of how to take the names in ways that we wouldn't otherwise know. So these 8 instructions are really a fathomless ocean, and we'll only be able to touch the ocean, but hopefully get a taste for it. Now, the Siksastakam is the only writing we have from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he did teach his philosophy and theology to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and they have given us a wealth of sacred texts. They have completely captured, codified, and presented Mahaprabhu's very sophisticated philosophy in the Bhakti Shastras. And so we do have a backing for the Siksastakam. We have a backing by which we can understand the Siksastakam, which we couldn't understand otherwise. And these 8 stanzas, they first appear in an anthology of verses compiled by one of the 6 Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, in a text called Pajavali, beautiful anthology of verses. But the verses of the Siksastakam, they're just scattered throughout that book. They're not in any particular order. But then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami put them in a certain order, and he put them in the very last chapter of the biography, making, and that's a long text, the biography. So putting the verses at the very end of his long book, he's bringing attention to these prayers. He's pointing them out as the essence of all instructions. Here you can find everything that you need to know, right here in the Siksastakam. So at this point in the biography, we had the full pastimes of Mahaprabhu. They've been fully explained. And then we hear this. And some devotees say that what this demonstrates and announces is that Mahaprabhu was successful in achieving his inner reasons for coming here. He's triumphant. He's achieved the goal he desired to attain. And many people say that the very final verse of the Siksastakam is the voice directly of Srimati Radharani, expressing the nature of her pure love. So Gauranga has entered fully into the mood of Radha at the end of his pastimes. We hear her glorious statement in the final verse that Mahaprabhu speaks, and he's speaking these verses at his most vulnerable moments at the end of his manifest presence. And he's speaking to his 2 closest associates, Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Roy. And I wanted to honor these 2 special devotees, but the time is too short, so we couldn't spend time here. But that's why I made a handout for you to give you a little overview of who these, some wonderful details of these amazing devotees. And you can also read about them in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, the order, what's interesting also is that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have the verses in an order, but in between the verses, we have other verses. So we only know that these verses are the verses of the Siksastakam because Prabhupada points it out to us in his commentary on the first verse. And in the first verse commentary, he then tells us which verses are the Siksastakam verses, 12, 16, 29, 21, like that. He gives them to us. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we don't have a lot of commentary on these verses. We're just given the verses, so we don't really understand a lot about them. But we do get a commentary on the Siksastakam 500 years later. with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Prabhupada's spiritual master. So we're now 3-4 acharyas removed. He wrote, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a commentary called Sri Sanmodana Bhasyam in 1886. And in 1893, he wrote a series of very beautiful songs called Gitavali. And those songs of the Gitavali are a further commentary on the Siksastakam. And I've grabbed those Gitavali songs in one of the handouts for you, because not only did I want you to have those songs as a commentary on the Siksastakam, but we're going to sing a couple of them in our seminar, a couple of the seminars. So make sure you locate that, because you're going to need to refer to the words when we have the kirtan. The Gitavali are short songs, and they're extraordinary. They reveal the Thakur's own feelings about the holy name and his relationship with the name. You might find, like I do, that he echoes my own feelings, and even if you don't quite feel that, it's just impossible not to be drawn in by these genuine expressions that he gives voice to, and aspire to his moods and longing. And another reason why I gave you the Gitavali is that I thought you could maybe read them. For instance, you could read one song before beginning your chanting, and you can rotate through the songs. It really helps enrich our japa meditation. And they're short, so it doesn't take much time, but they're very they're beautiful compositions. So I offer those to you. Let's go back to the commentary, Sri Sanmodana Bhasyam. There we find something really extraordinary and a unique gift that Thakur Bhaktivinoda has given us. And we did not have this before he gave us this commentary. What he does there is he shows us the parallel between the lessons in Mahaprabhu's Siksastakam and the progressive stages of the purification of heart in Bhakti that Rupa Goswami gives us in the Nectar Devotion. And he shows us how these two align. Rupa Goswami has explained that Bhakti matures in 8 progressive stages toward prema. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas are very, very specific about everything, and developing divine love of God is also among very specific things. There's a science to developing. There's a guidepost. There's a way to do it. We're shown. We know. We can see where we are. We can see where we need to go, and so making the connection between what Mahaprabhu has given us in the Siksastakam and what Rupa Goswami says are the stages of developing love of Godhead is a real insight into how we can appreciate the Siksastakam and mine all its meanings. So I've given you another handout called Ado Shraddha. There you'll find the 8 stages of bhakti as well. And then after those 8 stages on the second page, I give the symptoms of bhava bhakti, and then I describe the intensifying stages of prema after one receives a spiritual body. So that's beyond our discussion now, but it's there for you to have a look at. Now I'm going to speak extensively about this connection between the Ado Shraddha verse and the Siksastaka. So you might want to locate that handout and have it available to look at periodically. In fact, I'm going to bring it up pretty soon. Before we do, though, I want to point out that we have another commentary by Bhaktivinoda in his book called Bhajan Rahasya, which he wrote in 1902. So clearly we can see the verses of Mahaprabhu were on Thakur's mind. He was writing a lot about them. In the Bhajan Rahasya, besides stressing, he further stresses the connection between the stages of developing to prema and the Siksastakam. And he he makes the correlations very explicit. And so I developed for you two other handouts, and I can't remember the file names, but the on the top of the file it says Relationships of the Holy Names, Siksastakam, and the Development of Prema. And one is a chart and one is just a file. And those are visuals that will help you conceive of what we're talking about. And I think you'll find them really interesting. They're good resources. We also have commentaries on the Siksastakam from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, and from a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called B.R. Sridhar Maharaj. So I'm going to be drawing on all these commentaries. And let's see here. I wanted to let's look at the Ado Shraddha handout. I'm going to share my screen that's just focused on a particular part of the handout, but I'm not going to share my screen for long, so you might want to pull the handout out because I'm going to be talking about that handout for a few more minutes. Let's see here. We're going to be wrapping it up soon. Let me see if I can also, now I'm the host and the speaker, so now I have to figure out how to share my screen. Hold on. And I want to share it on this and share. Okay, so this is a part, you'll see this is the top of the page. It has the verse by Rupa Goswami, the Sanskrit, the translation, and I'm going to focus on these three stages here. So we have the, if you notice here, we have sadhana bhakti, we have the next level, bhava bhakti, and the final level, prema bhakti. And Jiva Goswami says that this progression toward love of God is the most common sequence. We shouldn't think that we're going to skip over any of these stages. And we're going to do, each one of these, Mahaprabhu talks about each one of these stages in the Siksastakam. And so in coming classes, we're going to go over them in more detail. But I just wanted to give us kind of a grounding on what we're looking at in a relationship to the stages and the Siksastakam. So I'm going to point out again, there's sadhana, bhava, and prema bhakti. These are actually, you'll see in sadhana, there's 7 stages within it. And then bhava bhakti is separate. That's the stage of spontaneous loving service. And then you have prema bhakti, which is the final stage of love of God. And like I said, on page 3 of the file, I show that prema has further developments once we achieve a spiritual bodies. It's not just prema. There's further developments in prema. So let's see here. I'm going to stop my screen share. We're going to talk a little bit more about them, or let's see where we are. So in that screen share, you're going to see under the sadhana bhakti, we have shraddha, or trust, in the first stage of bhakti. We've turned away from Krishna from a time without beginning, and by some unimaginable good fortune, here we've come in contact with Krishna's devotee. And what happens? Our material existence begins to wane. It's through the association of devotees that we are given some bhakti, a seed of bhakti, an understanding of bhakti. We develop a little trust and we inquire further. And we should really remember that the only way we obtain bhakti is through devotees. We must always remember this and be respectful of Krishna's devotees who've made our connection with him possible. When we receive bhakti, it's understood that Bhakti Devi has taken birth in our heart. This is not something that's ordinary. This is something that is extraordinary. And it's described, Bhaktivinoda describes that she's like a delicate newborn infant in our heart that we must carefully protect. And we protect her by hearing and chanting in the company of devotees. We began hearing the sacred texts about Bhaktas, Bhakti, and Bhagavan, or the devotee Krishna and the Bhakti between them. We hear the sacred texts from genuine devotees to nourish our faith so that it becomes more and more firm. This is how we're growing this infant, Bhakti Devi, in our heart. And gradually we're developing firm faith in the sacred texts, the Gita, Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the other Bhakti Shastras. So as we can understand, Shraddha in this context, which is described as faith, this is not ordinary faith of the world. It's Bhakti Shraddha. It's a spiritual energy that descends from the spiritual world and is implanted in the heart. It's a spiritual energy. And it's, like I said, it's a gift. It's not something that you just acquire, like, okay, I'm going to go read a book and get it. No, it's something that's given as a gift by some unimaginable, causeless mercy. And we should always bow to this gift and very, very carefully protect Bhakti in the heart. So the next stage is Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees. As faith develops, we want to hear more about Bhakti, we want to understand more, and therefore we seek out regular company of devotees. One of the things that's really important to understand, and it's only kind of like really sunk in for me in the last so many years, is that we can't overstate the importance of the association of devotees in our life for developing Bhakti and protecting the Bhakti creeper. It's the root, it's considered the very root of Bhakti is the association of devotees. And that is the root of Bhakti, even in perfection in the spiritual world. We are dependent on the association and company of Krishna's devotees. And in this stage of development of Bhakti, we'll hear from devotees, and gradually we'll find who is our personal guru, who is our teacher that so clearly speaks to our heart, and we're going to be moved then to accept him or her as our guide. And under their direction, then we're going to engage in practices of bhakti, which is called bhajana kriya, the next stage, engagement in devotional service. So as we learn about the philosophy, we gain further conviction, we decide to take up a practice, we start allowing our lives to be guided by the sacred texts and the experience and guidance of mystics and seers that we hear about from the text. And we're gradually cleaning the heart to make it a fit place to welcome Krishna. We find out that there's rules to follow, there's things to do and things to avoid, and we begin to apply those principles in our life. So initially, our practice is based on duty. We haven't developed a taste yet for the practices. That's more like medicine now, but it will become food or nectar. We have to hang in there. At some point, feeling will become spontaneous, and then the rules don't dictate to the heart at that stage. Then we encounter what's called a nartana vritti, or cleansing the unwanted desires of the heart. This is not an easy stage because there's a lot of things that impede the development of our bhakti. Anarthas cause distractions and stagnations, and they increase suffering. They hinder us in so many ways. We have to uproot them. There's internal obstacles. We have misunderstandings. Oh my gosh, we find out we have bad qualities. We're materially attached. We have emotional weaknesses like pride and anger and envy. Oh my gosh. And we know that we're not the mind-body complex, and we know what the goal of life is, but we discover we don't act like we know these things. So we haven't realized the theory yet. And then we find out that, we can commit offenses to the holy names, and we have to be careful of that. So gradually, even a bit painfully, we come to know all the ways we're in illusion and ignorance, and we have to determinedly work on removing those obstacles. So this clearing stage takes place in successive stages that's described in a book called Madhurya Kadambini. And it can take a while. This is the longest stage of development of prema. It can take some years. to do the important work of emptying the dirty house and cleaning it and repairing it and repainting it and making other necessary improvements so that it can be properly decorated as a temple where Krishna might like to sit. We're doing the work of preparing an invitation for him. So this is a nice visualization to keep regularly remembering that we're constructing a sacred place in the heart, and it requires our focus and loving attention. Then we come to a stage called nishta, or steadiness. When these obstacles are fully cleared, we engage in continuous bhakti without confusion and free from distractions. Nishta is a stage of one-pointedness. It's just completely focused on the bhakti practices, and they become central to our life. This manifests as incessant striving in the pursuit of bhajan, our spiritual practice. And at this point, that little infant in our heart, she can't be easily harmed because now she's grown up and she's become strong. And yeah, I want to wrap this up so we have some time for questions, but I do want to just point out a couple of the important things because this is very helpful. You know, when we take up a bhakti practice, we think of prema as the goal, and it's so lofty and it seems so far away. So instead of making prema our goal, some people say we should make nishta our goal. It's our interim goal. We can fix our sights here. Then we'll be less disheartened about when, you know, oh my gosh, I'm not reached bhava, and when is prema? It's going to take so long. But we can reach nishta. This is possible for us to do. It requires determination and patience and enthusiasm. It requires us to really sincerely and seriously engage, but we can achieve it, and we're going to talk about it more in the third class about how we do that. But at that point, we're on very solid ground, and our progression through the following stages of prema is quicker and it's more assured. The next stage is ruchi. As our steadiness and the practices matures, we actually start developing a taste. We relish the practices. We can't stop chanting the holy name. We intensely hanker to like always engage with them. And what was medicine now becomes real food and nourishes us. There are sweets. And we experience joy and enthusiasm for the practices of bhakti. Then what happens? We start developing what's called asakti, when the enthusiasm for the practices becomes very thick. Then we move into a stage of Shakti, which becomes an unbreakable bond with Krishna. He becomes the center of all our thoughts. All of our words and deeds are dedicated to him. In Nishta, maybe the mind sometimes wasn't so attracted and was sometimes a little diverted, but in Asakti, we transcend the mind. This is a mental state, psychological state of real attachment for Krishna. And here now our bhajan is becoming spontaneous. We're moving toward the rag marg, which I talked about earlier. And then we achieve bhava, the goal of sadhana bhakti. The goal of those 7 steps is bhava bhakti. It's a separate category of bhakti called bhava bhakti. And no one no longer acts out of duty or fear, but just out of love. This is just the heart has become completely soft and melts, and we are in love with our supreme friend. And in bhava, what happens? This is the first ray of prema. Prema is now arising. Pure love of God is on the horizon, and we move from bhava bhakti into prema bhakti. And this is characterized by selfless, ecstatic love for Krishna. And after prema awakens in the heart, one is transferred to the spiritual world, where prema goes through more successions of development. So I want to ask you, we're coming to the end here. We're going to, as I said, next week we're going to be looking at the first verse of the Siksastakam. And we could do one of two things. We could just immediately take questions, or we could do take 5 minutes to chant together. And I thought we could chant a little bit with an intention that I have set out. So would anyone like to give me an indication what they prefer? Would you like to enter into a little meditation together or go into questions and answers? Chant, 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 chant. Okay, I'm going to give you a meditation and okay, confirmed, we're chanting for 5 minutes and then we'll take questions. All right, so I want to give you a little meditation. And I always find it helpful, just even if I just take 5 seconds to center my mind before I begin chanting, it makes a lot of difference. So I'm going to set the intention. I'm going to read a few things out loud. And I want us to pay attention to the truth that Krishna loves us just as we are. We are loved by him. And we have an important eternal relationship with him that unfortunately we have largely ignored until now. But we can change that, and we want to change that, and we can change that, and he's making available to us in his holy name. Krishna has never forgotten us. He's right now present with us, and we can feel his presence as we welcome him by hearing with attention. So if you like to begin our meditation, you can close your eyes as I repeat a prayer. And this prayer, as I say, I want to set the intention for our 5-minute chant. I am a spark of spirit, longing to reconnect to the great fire of Krishna's love. As part of him, I am dear to him, and his affection calls me to respond. How can I align my heart with this beautiful divine truth? I am completely dependent on him, and he is fully capable of protecting me. He's my best friend. I belong to Krishna, and he belongs to me. Finally, I have found my place, meaning, and purpose, and my future is very bright. With humility, I remember that I am loved and ask that Krishna accept me. Krishna, may I give you happiness by chanting your sacred names. If you have mala, you could take out your mala, or you can just chant the holy name. And I will time our 5 minutes as we connect with Krishna in his holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. You can come back as you like. And we can take any questions there might be, or if anyone would like to share their experience, comments, questions, just unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna. What does anartha nivritti look like with my eyes? Like, how do I see it happening? What's it actually look like?
Who is that? Eze? Okay, Eze. Thank you for the question. Yeah, as the speaker and the host, it's kind of where is everything? It looks like becoming. Do you want to know what it looks like, dirty or clean?
Dirty.
Dirty means a lack of attraction for chanting. It means being distracted by things of the world, finding that there's material desires in the heart. We have misconceptions about the philosophy and theology. We don't quite understand it. It's still being revealed to us. We will, yeah, like unbecoming emotions will still be in our hearts. We might feel envy toward other people. We may feel jealousy. We could be still attracted to watching mundane things. We might like to gratify our tongue more than we should, as opposed to using our tongue in service. We're not attracted to speaking about Krishna as we are attracted to gossip and um, just topics that are not centered on Krishna. Other ways that would anyone else want to weigh in on other ways we might find in Arjuna Vritti? We should all have some experience at this stage where I'll be able to speak about this one. Yeah, Casey's smiling. Is that good enough, Ezzy, or should we try to dive deeper into it?
So that's helpful. Okay, what it looks like here, like the dirty side, or like okay, like where I'm at, and then what does it look like? What's the cleaning process? You said dirty and clean. What's that in between? How does one like yeah
There's
things or whatever?
there's it's there's a book called Madhurya Kadambini by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he goes into depth about these 7 stages of sadhana bhakti with special attention to the anartha-nivritti stage, because it is the stage that is the most important to go through, and it is the most difficult one to go through, and it is the most lengthy process, because what's going on is we are here for a time without beginning, and therefore we have a lot of impressions on the subtle body that must be removed. And this is just, it just takes time, because it is, you'll find, I can speak personally, I've been doing this for 50 years, layer after layer after layer after layer, and you think, my gosh, I had no idea. I mean, really, I had no idea of how much was there that needed to be removed, rooted out. We'll find that this is where we are for most of our practice of bhakti, is in the stage of clearing, purifying the heart. But the good news is bhakti is very capable of doing this work. No other spiritual practice actually can do the work that bhakti does as easily as bhakti does it. Bhakti is actually automatically purifying the heart, inclining us toward renouncing the world. We don't have to make a separate endeavor for this, to renounce the world and focus on Krishna. We chant his holy name, the heart becomes purified. Gradually, Bhakti Devi herself will show us all the dirty things in the heart. We remove them one after another, one after another. Sometimes we'll get special mercy and they'll just be lifted. Sometimes we'll be working on something for a long time, begging for mercy and asking for help, and then we'll get it. It occurs in a lot of different ways, as unique for each individual. But I highly recommend Madhurya Kadambini by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. It's a little scary because you start hearing about, wow, all the ways, like one of the things it says is that in the stage of anartha-nivritti, you'll think, no, I'm just going to take to bhakti. I'm just going to do bhakti. I'm going to surrender everything. But then you realize that actually, should I get married, or maybe I shouldn't get married? Should I renounce this? Maybe I'll stop. Maybe I'll stop. Scrolling through social media. No, I can't quite stop scrolling through social media just yet. And you go back and forth, and there's this back and forth and back and forth in anartha-nivritti, until we just get so disgusted with material experience that we go, oh my God, what am I doing? I just want Krishna, and I'm going to take shelter at this lotus feet in very sincere way. Matthew in the chat has said, being captured by false evaluations like anxieties and attempts to control material reality. Great example, because boy, was I a controller. Let me control my environment and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Well, it doesn't work. Are these not conditions before we can be loved? Dear Krishna, the process with 9 stages is difficult. Are these not conditions before we can be loved? No. Are we not loved by the unconditional? Yes. So the point of the practice in these processes, Prabhu, is Krishna loves us. He loves us unconditionally already. We don't have to prove ourselves. We're loved. We are part of him. We are loved. What the process is doing is allowing us to return his love with a pure heart, with pure love, and not be distracted by the world and all these things, our bodies, our identifications, and all these things. But we're finally, with a pure heart, able to completely offer ourselves. And we're going to hear in the last verse of the Siksastakam the level of love that is possible and is required in order us to come in the presence of Krishna personally, to be able to have a personal relationship and to serve him directly. That's not a small attainment. And it is, it's going to take a while for us to have the heart purified. Is that okay? Dear Krishna, anything else? And then Miguel says, once noticed being overly critical of our own shortcomings. Yeah, that can be a problem. It also could be a problem that we're not critical enough. But yes, I know what you mean. There has to be a balance because we have to make it through. That's the other thing. We have to make it through and learn how to. Uh, the mind can be very difficult, and it can be, it's like I've heard it equated to like a horse and training a horse. You have to know how to gradually train the horse. You can't just get on a wild horse and try to tell it what to do. You're going to be thrown and you're going to be hurt. So the mind can be like that. It requires some actual art. There's an art. The art, bhakti is an art, and executing bhakti is an art. So it requires us to be sensitive, be thoughtful, look for balance, but with deep seriousness, very seriously taking up the practices so that we can make it through. Nartanavriti. Good to see you, Sarah. Wow. Hi. Yeah, we have the mantra for paying obeisances to devotees now. Who did Dear Krishna gave us that? Haribo Nadia Kumar. Um, hey, Julia. Yeah, so is there anything else? I see you smiling sometimes, Krishna Kumari.
Hare Krishna. Just can relate to everything that you're saying and the process and just the kind of in and out aspect of it, being kind of a mixed devotee and but trying to really ground and root in the fact that Krishna loves us unconditionally. That's such a key concept that, you're repeating and that helps us, in all aspects of this process. So really just really trying to feel that. And it feels good to be around others in association and going deeper into chanting, going through the Siksastakam. So I'm really appreciating all of this right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Mhm. Hare Krishna. Nice to meet you. Is that good, Eze? Any other questions on that?
No, that's it. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you, Dan.
Hare
Lavangala.
Krishna.
I just didn't recognize you were there because you didn't have your camera on. Gracias. Anything else? Are we wrapping it up? Is it time? Time to leave each other's company until next week. What does spiritual emotion mean in context to chanting and being purified by chanting? Well, spiritual motion is not something that we have a lot of experience with, so it's something that will come to us. I think we get glimpses of it, even when we first come to Bhakti or begin chanting or sit in a kirtan for the first time or after several times. We'll get a shadow experience of, and it's very profound, this shadow experience of what real spiritual emotion is. And it's so profound that it deeply touches us. But until we're more advanced in the stages toward love of God, they're not pure. I guess you could call them mixed spiritual emotions. They're not completely pure yet, but they're very powerful. And in the context of chanting and being purified by chanting, I'm not exactly sure if I understand the question completely. Oh, this Jurgen is Jagadananda, right? Where is he? Is he on a different screen?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, there you are. I think you're Jagadananda, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, nice to meet you. Yeah, could you clarify your question? I'm not sure if I understand it.
Sure, yes. And I mean, you partially answered it. Just wanted to know about what do spiritual emotions look like in the context of and you explained this first stage of sort of shadow or just kind of glimpses. And maybe my question is trying to answer trying to ask, um, what do those emotions have to do with um, bringing us closer? Because uh, yeah, emotion can be used either way. Emotion is also the number one cause of crime and other um, drastic activities. Um, so how does emotion become tied to the ultimate good in that sense? So
Mhm.
spiritual emotion in that sense.
Mhm. So the first part you were saying, what does emotion might look like in the context of chanting for us sadhakas? Um, I think that it looks like determination, patience, enthusiasm. It looks like understanding philosophically the points to ground us so that there's a place for spiritual emotion to actually develop, for us to understand that there's a difference between spiritual emotion and material emotion, that they are different, they look different. Spiritual emotion is in relation to the soul and Krishna. So in the initial stages, spiritual emotion could look like intentionally seeing others as a spiritual soul and super soul in the heart. It could look like um, offering myself as I'm chanting, or offering myself when I'm doing some seva, or choosing to be of service to other people instead of just gratifying my own senses. These are these are spiritual emotions, but they're not completely pure yet, and they're not as intense as they can be. And I think you've experienced spiritual emotions from what I've heard, dedicated so many years in an ashram situation to push forward bhakti for your spiritual master. And what was that if not spiritual emotion? That wasn't material.
Mm. Mm.
Thank you.
Mm. And it's a gift that you have. Yeah, you've got a gift to.
And then, Jagadananda, is that as we were describing, when you reach the higher stages of sadhana bhakti, when the heart is really becoming purified, then we start really seeing spiritual emotion. What is spiritual emotion? What is spiritual emotion? It's love. That is the essence of spiritual emotion, but it's pure love. It's not mixed or tainted love. It's not a temporary love. It's not a fleeting love. It's not a love that is just based on bodily gratification. It's a love that transcends these things. And it starts manifesting in the heart of the sadhaka as they progress. And then, of course, we hear the most exalted stages when we see what Radha's love looks like.
May I kindly follow up on there was a previous question about anatta vritti and sort of the balance point between the the dark, or so to speak, or the coming out and the emerging on the other side, and what that looks like, and what sort of signposts can we start to see and take notice of, to even begin pulling or noting that we are in the middle point, in the deep valley point, so to speak. How do you start seeing those things?
Start seeing that you're making progress. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Making progress, or even having, I think maybe having stopped progress or having come to a slowdown is obvious in and of itself, but um,
Mhm.
it also comes with a certain depth, and that depth is now asking for direction.
Mhm. As I said, Madhurya Kadambini, and I don't remember all the stages that he talks about in about Anartha Vritti in that book, but I think when I think we get glimmers of understanding of when we're making progress in the practice, and we have to trust that. Sometimes we'll get a feeling while engaged, or we'll be developing certain thoughts about bhakti. As you said, you're in a, what did you pause? Something you said, like pausing and thinking and reconsidering. You said something like to that effect. Anyways,
Just to the effect that you gave the example earlier that there's this the bad sides or the purification signs, right? There's different aspects of ourselves that become revealed through the Nivriti process. Um, and so for me is wondering at which point do we say we are becoming purified of them? How do we start seeing those signposts?
when the material desires are starting to attract us less, we have less attraction to them. We start acting as spiritual beings on a regular basis instead of just theoretically understanding that I'm not the body, but I actually start acting on a spiritual platform. And what does that look like? It means engaging with the practices of bhakti, hearing and chanting about Krishna. It means using our senses, spiritualizing the senses by using the senses in service to Krishna. How did we develop a material identity? We develop it by the senses engaging with the world based on this body. And we spiritualize the senses by using them in hearing and chanting and direct seva to Krishna, whether that's speaking about bhakti or reading sacred texts or chanting the holy name. And as you by the process of chanting, by the process of hearing, then Krishna enters the heart and he removes all the unwanted things. And those are very practical. Like I was talking to Eze, we're not going to be attracted to staying on our phones all the time. We're going to want to actually hear the sacred texts and absorb ourselves there. We're going to not need to, like I know devotees like to, for instance, eat out and taste different things. It's just that these things lose attraction, completely lose attraction. And it comes in stages. So to know all the stages, well, it becomes a little subtle. Like you don't always know exactly, oh, I'm making progress, but you are assured that if you stick with the practice, you're making progress. And then some of the subtle shifts that we're not completely aware with, they build, and then we see, oh, yes, that's something tangible. I'm not so agitated by people's behaviors anymore. It's not important. I can offer respect. I don't need so much respect for myself. I can honor everyone. There's different qualities that start developing in our being that become part of us, these good qualities, these beautiful qualities of a Vaishnava, and we start being able to recognize them.
Thank
We
you.
don't always know, but it is shown gradually. Anyone else want to address that point? What is their experience? We're getting late here now. You look tired, Jagadananda. Is it really late or early for you? Like, what is it, like 1 a.m. or something?
Yeah, it's 2:10.
Oh my gosh. Hare Krishna. Thank you for being with us. Bye, Mimi. Okay. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next week. Hare Krishna. Jai. Jai. Jai Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gora, Gora, Gora Haribol.